So excellent day, everyone. Dr. Harry Benjamin, transformational teacher and speaker here, reaching out to you once more. You know, I'm right now in Lagos, Nigeria, and man, I'm having such a great time. And thank you very much for either tuning in again, or if this is your very first time watching one of these videos. There is a 5-part series, and this is the third of that 5-part series. And there are 2 other ones prior to this one that are relating to thoughts, relating to our moods, relating to our separate realities, relating to our feelings, the now moments, 5 principles that relate to happiness. And we're here to talk some more about that and how we can actually flesh those out so that each of us can actually experience more joy, more peace. That's something that comes up from within. I'm very grateful and excited about this. The feedback, thank you very much. Keep them coming. So as it relates to today's particular segment, we're talking about separate realities. We're talking about that each human being literally has separate realities. Now, I want to start off with mentioning that, reality, there are 2 ways to look at reality, 2 broad ways to look at reality. We could look at reality with a capital R, and that capital R is the reality that never changes. That's a reality that's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that reality is constant throughout eternity. Now, the other reality is with a lowercase r, and that reality is what human beings tend to experience. And that reality is different from one human being to another. And because it's different from one human being to another, we really need to develop compassion to be able to not disrupt our inner sense of joy. Prior to now, you've heard me maybe speak about the fact that joy is something that bubbles up from within. It's a natural part of our being, and our way of looking at the world can suppress that joy and limit our experience of it. Now, one of the areas that we tend to limit our experience of joy is where other human beings are related. And not understanding how they're processing information literally could cause you to actually have judgments about their behavior, which would interrupt your joy. Now, let me use a living example, a practical example, and maybe you could just imagine this happening with me. Because what the challenge is that we're experiencing from one person to another is that people experience their thoughts about reality, not reality itself. Meaning that majority of times what's happening is that people are listening to what they're thinking about what they're experiencing or what they're seeing, and not what's actually happening. And I could use an example to help us to understand this a little bit clearer. But before I go into that, I'll go into that example, but I also want us to maybe look at how we end up perceiving, how we end up seeing a situation. Because all of us have within us what are called filters. And these filters come about by culture, they come about by parental background, they come about by the community that we grew up in, they come about by the way we learn information, the books we have read, the things that we have listened to. And all these experiences come together to create filters. And as a result of these filters, that's the way we end up seeing a particular thing or a particular experience. And because each human being has a different way of the way in which they grew up and the various experiences that they had, it changes the way we filter information. So as a result, human beings see the same situation differently. There's a study today, not just today, but many of them, but it's pretty clear now that about 50% of people who are in prison based on eyewitnesses. So those who went to court and they used eyewitness testimony as the measure to put them into prison or keep them free, they're realizing that 50% of people who are in prison are actually not guilty of the crime that witnesses saw them commit, especially when one was, let's say, one was Caucasian and the one committing the crime was African American. There is a filter, there's a stereotype in which people use to look at the particular individual. And as a result of looking at them with that stereotype, it blocks their way of seeing what's actually happening. And these filters, we all have them. It's not something to be judgmental about, it's to recognize that we have them. When you recognize that we have them, when somebody says something, you won't take it personally because it's the way that they're seeing it. And the filters in their mind and the blocks that are there are limiting their way of seeing something. And when you realize this, when somebody says something from that perspective, you can have what's called compassion. Now, compassion is an understanding for the lack of understanding. So when somebody does something that's, not so nice, not kind, it's a lack of understanding that led to it. And this great teacher, Socrates, he said this well over 3,000 years ago, that each human being is doing the best that they can do at their level of understanding. And if you think about that, that's really a great way of understanding what's happening. Because human beings are trying their best, but they're trying their best within the level of their understanding. So as a result, when they make mistakes that, sometimes interferes with your way of experiencing life, you should not let that then determine your sense of joy, your sense of peace, because they're doing it from a standpoint of a lack of understanding. Another way to look at that is call it forgiveness. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. When somebody's doing something that you believe, in your estimation, that person should not be doing that. For us to remain within our own joy and our peace, we have to be able to have them in a place of not, wrestling with them about it, not struggling with them about it. Because when you're doing so, within your own consciousness, you're disrupting your own inner sense of joy and your inner sense of peace when you're there wrestling with someone who is looking at it from their perspective. Now, another thing that tends to happen to us, and looking at this example that came to mind, and as I was coming into doing this particular session today, I thought about this as an example that could help us to see how we project our thoughts onto a circumstance, and that may not be what's happening. And so look at this situation with me now. And let's say you're married, and your spouse tells you that they're going to travel by airplane to another part of the country, right? And they're leaving a particular time, and you expect that they would have been gone, by that time. Let's say they're leaving at 12 o'clock today, right? And they left home on their way, and at 1 o'clock, you're driving, or you're in a certain area, and you notice your spouse with someone of the opposite sex, right? Your spouse with someone of the opposite sex, and they're standing next to maybe a hotel, and you're driving by, and you're like, what's going on? Because you're seeing them standing there, and your spouse has the other in an embrace, right? And it's now the time that the spouse was supposed to be on flight. They're standing outside of a hotel, right? That's not a very funny sight, right? If you think about it, but it's funny, right? So now, what are your thoughts? Well, what are your thoughts during that moment? What are you thinking that they're doing as you're observing them? I'm sure some of you already have suggestions that have come up in your mind, and so you couldn't stop. You're on the other side. You couldn't stop, so you kept driving, and you're all thrown out of shape. Wondering what's going on. And your mind is going crazy. Your emotions are like in an upheaval, right? And when all of that is happening, ladies and gentlemen, throughout the course of the afternoon, you haven't even called your spouse. You're so distraught about it, and you're starting to think, and you say, okay, wait, when he comes home from this flight, or she comes home from this flight, let's you're waiting, really trying to be calm and trying to be cool. So, in the night, your spouse steps in, and you're there fuming throughout the whole afternoon. Your emotions have gone haywire. And in the night when he comes home or she comes home, and you say to them, so how was your flight? How was your flight? And you're ready now. You're ready because you have the evidence. In fact, you snapped a picture. You snapped a picture. So there's no way for them to get out of this one, right? And so you ask him, or her, because it could be either way. You ask him, so what were you doing? What happened today? How was your flight? And then your spouse goes on to tell you, well, the flight didn't happen. You say, why not? Say, well, this school friend, this person you hadn't seen in years, they ran into them, at such and such a place, and just in the early morning, the person, got the information that their father passed away. And then you're there like, wow. It's a good thing that I didn't belch out and say, I saw you doing this and you're doing that, because of all the thoughts that we had. So look at the situation now, and look back at what you're thinking about the possibilities of what was taking place. All right? And then check out that what you experienced in your body, the emotions, all of that took place, the mood that you carried throughout the day, It had nothing to do with the reality of what was going on. What took place are your thoughts about what was happening, not what happened. So understanding this, that's what happens with human beings. Human beings suffer from an inability to see reality as it is. And what human beings see are their thoughts about reality, not reality. Now, to transcend this, right, because there's one thing to tell you where the challenge is, but how do we go beyond this, right? There are practices that we can do that over time you can disengage your awareness from the thoughts that flow through your mind. And as a result of this, you're able to choose to not judge. You're able to choose to suspend judgment about a particular situation that you have seen and wait until you've gathered enough information to arrive at what really was going on. And during that period of staying free from the content of your thoughts, you can maintain your inner sense of peace and joy and not lose it because your thoughts told you about something that could have been happening that wasn't happening. And that example, I believe, is a good example to show that we can be experiencing something, right, because of the thoughts we have about the situation, but that's not the situation. And you're experiencing it opposite to what was really going on and took ourselves down into a negative spiral. So, just imagine you were really upset, right? You packed your things because this is the end, right? You packed your bags and you're ready to leave, or you left because of your thoughts about what you thought happened, as opposed to what was actually happening. So what we have to remember as we are learning this is that we live in these separate realities. And the reality of each person is determined by their pattern and mental habit of thinking. And as a result of these cultures and these ways of growing up and community and educational background, what we have to do is to be compassionate to others based on their behavior. So you don't just rush into, judging and rush into trying to make decisions, right, based on very little information. We have to be very patient because a lot of people are looking through a very tight lens. They're looking for a very narrow window. Most human beings see a very small amount of reality, meaning that they're looking through a window this narrow, when reality is this big. So as a result of this, what we have to do is to slow down. And over time, as one meditates and one does affirmative prayer, one does proper study spiritually, one has high-minded conversations and selfless service. And there's 7 nice practices that we do over time. What happens now is that your viewpoint starts to expand. And you start to expand and you get a wider spiral through which to experience life. And as a result of that, more joy, more peace becomes available to you because we're not suffocating ourselves down with limited perceptions and limited point of views. So separate realities is a very important thing to remember and to know that we, ladies and gentlemen, can definitely, without question, we can definitely have, right? We can definitely have and enjoy more peace. We can have more peace, more joy. We literally can. There are many people who are doing this and experiencing this now. And we're at a time in human history where more and more of us need to start to swim in that part of the ocean of life, where we're experiencing more peace, we're experiencing more joy. We're living at a higher level on this planet, and we're bringing now the thoughts of heaven to bear on this earth. That's the time that we're living in. We need more people to engage in this. And I'm here to play a part. I'm very grateful that I'm able to do this. Just to share this, and I pray that you'll actually send this to people who are, experiencing life in the downward spiral and sometimes have these wide mood swings and also just splurting out things that are coming from what we call a sea of mental garbage, where they're thinking from the din of confusion of human experience, right? So we want to rise up above that. And the 3 areas that we covered so far: thoughts, right? Understanding how the mind works, how thoughts operate, and that they're just thoughts, not taking them seriously. Understanding moods, that low moods have negative thinking, high moods have better quality thoughts that we can choose from. And now you have seen separate realities, that we look at life individually through separate windows, separate lenses, breathing and boosting our sense of compassion for others when they make mistakes, so we can let these issues go and not rush to judgment, as I gave you an example today to look forward to. Next week, we're going to get into feelings and emotions And that area is so beautiful, man. You know, there's a distinct difference between feeling tones and emotions. Emotion, energy in motion. And we'll cover those two areas and give us a clearer understanding of how that aspect of our life works so that you and I can continue to enjoy more peace, more joy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been my privilege talking to you today. I hope that this information was a blessing to you and those who watch it. God bless each and every one of you. We will see you at the top. You deserve to be there. Bye for now. For those of us who enjoyed this video, or even if you didn't fully enjoy it, but leave your comments, all right? You know, please share it with friends, family, you know, individuals that you'd like to actually learn about what we're talking about. And please subscribe to this channel as well. You know, our goal is to really help more of us as human beings on this planet rise and shine and reveal more of our inner peace, joy, and reveal more abundance. All right. So thank you for your comments. I'm looking forward to reading them. I'll seek to respond to them. I'm having a great time. I hope that you are. God bless you all.